So I've seen a couple videos on reviving YouTube atheism from like Noel Plum, and then Thunderfoot did his WordPress document saying that he was going to give out a reward for it. And I did a couple more YouTube atheism videos, but really, that shit is boring. It's very tedious. And of course all this has been said about this topic before, like everything has been said before about this topic, but there's only so many ways you can state the insanely motherfucking obvious. Now, maybe this is because I was never at any point religious, but I don't feel a great emotional drive to go dragging motherfuckers kicking and screaming into reality, right? Like, I see so many videos where they just laboriously debunk point after point after point of some theist video or a thing that they've seen, some Christian has put out, and it's just so, it looks like so much work, like it would take so much time and it'd just be so fucking tedious. And it's like, listen, I didn't tell religious people all this stupid bullshit, right? I didn't tell them these retarded lies, so logically I have no duty to correct it. You know, I will, just because I'm a nice guy, point out the insanely fucking obvious just in case it's lost on people. But I'm not going to just like, you know, grind away my vital lifespan doing this shit. It's like, buddy, you are the captain of your brain ship. Now, if you want to let Jesus take the wheel, which is to say leave it totally fucking unattended, well, that's your bad decision. I feel like I've done my duty by informing you what a bad decision it is, and I'll be on my way. Anyway, this is just a preamble to say that I will be returning to a topic I've already discussed, but unlike the whole theism, atheism thing, it's because I actually still have some useful perspective to add. Also, this time I'll be responding to this girl who's really funny looking, so let's see what she has to say.
Hey, okay, so I'm gonna talk about nice guys, and by that I want to make sure that you know I'm not talking about all guys who are nice. That would be ridiculously hard to make a generalization about people, but I'm talking about a phenomenon with capitals. Nice, capital guy. It's a coin. It's a term coined by feminists usually to describe a certain kind of attitude that a lot of guys have. Not all, but so I'm just gonna, when I say nice guys from here on out, that's what I'm referring to. I'm not trying to talk about all kind-natured men. What a nice guy is someone who is nice because they think that it will attract women, or it will get them to sleep with them, or get them to date them.
In other words, guys who are incapable of the most basic observation. You know, first you're kind of rambling, and I was distracted by the colors of your face and your clothes. I actually thought I was having a stroke for a second. I'm not going to rule that out. I might be having a stroke. I'm pretty fucking old. But what you're saying is nice guys who, for whatever retarded reason, in obvious defiance of observable reality, believe that being nice will get them laid. Okay. We're on the same page.
And when they realize that the woman that they're pursuing has put them in the friend zone, they immediately think they're better than her, call her a bitch, put her down. In other words, they feel entitled to get her some sexual pleasure from her because they were nice to her. So okay, just to talk a bit more about it. Nice guys usually talk about how girls only go for jerks.
Now see, in my last video on this topic, I actually didn't give this a whole lot of thought. But I realized something. This is all relative and a matter of perception. Now, the kind of guy who says, women only go for jerks, I'm a nice guy, why can't I get laid? It just occurred to me. One of these guys is most likely what you would call a mangina, a pathetic, bootlicking toady, just falling over his own asshole to do nice things for women for no apparent reason. And so, in a relative sense, he'd look at somebody like me. I'm not a jerk. I mean, I'm not exactly nice, but I'm not a jerk. But a guy like that would look at me and see how comparatively little I will do for women or how I expect shit in return. Like, you know, like people interacting as equals, and he'd be like, that guy is a jerk because he is not falling all over his own asshole every minute of the day to do everything for any woman. What a jerk, right? And then also, again, I'm not massively successful with women, but it's all relative. Compared to the type of guy, the type of nice guy who's like that, I would seem like a goddamn Casanova. So looking at me, you know, one of these types of guys would be like, well, look at this hideous one-eyed motherfucker. He's a total jerk and he's always getting laid. Of course, neither of those things is actually true. It's just true relative to his position in life, which is being a constant bitch and never getting laid. I'll get into the mechanics of how all of this works later, but keep going.
I've gotten a few comments on my videos from guys saying that girls are too picky, that girls don't like nice guys, that, well, I'll go into some other things later, and they do things so that someone will have sex with them. So there's this idea that women should reward niceness with sex, which is a sexist idea, which I'll talk.
Whoa, it's not sexist. Now, it ignores a few aspects of female psychology, but in terms of operant conditioning, it's actually a pretty logical thing to think. Let me expound upon this. A little over a century ago, I can't remember the exact date, the father of behavioral psychology, B.F. Skinner, what he did was he constructed this thing which he called a Skinner box. And he'd take a hungry cat and put it in this box. And inside of this box, there was a lever which, when depressed, would dispense a treat into the box. Now, the cat would just sort of, you know, go through its random behaviors, like probably trying to get out of the box. And it would, through these behaviors, eventually depress the lever. It would release a treat in there. And depending on how smart the cat was, it would learn, hey, if I press this lever, I get a piece of food. Now, it's thought that operant conditioning is really the basis for all complex learned behaviors for organisms capable of learning, such as ourselves. Well, you know, classical conditioning too, but let's not. Anyway, so it's only logical to think, if there's a woman always complaining like, why aren't guys nicer? Why are guys always being jerks to me? Well, it's only logical to think, men like sex. That is a good reward. So if you reward niceness with sex, you will be conditioning guys to be nicer. It's just how animals roll. Like, that's not how it works. And honestly, I think the reason guys in general aren't a lot nicer is because when you're too nice, it repels women like a fucking stink. It just does. So, yeah, if women put out in direct proportion to niceness, this world would be filled with nothing but the nicest motherfuckers you ever met. Because men, they're animals. You can condition them.
Talk about a bit. But how do you know if, I mean, I don't think that someone just is a nice guy, and that's like their whole being. I think everyone is a complex person, and I think because of the society we live in, someone who is a genuinely nice person might not even realize the way that their actions and their attitude towards women is objectifying them.
Shut the fuck up with the objectification shit. Now, I think I'm going to go into the analogy that I came up with in another video, the emotion bank. And I just realized, you know, today this would be applicable to this topic too. Now, here's how it works. I'm not a jerk, nor am I a particularly nice guy, but when meeting somebody, I do have an emotion bank. But I give somebody like a line of credit, you know, a little bit of front money to start with, a certain minimal amount of trust, respect, and kindness, right? Just, you know, it's not even a line of credit, it's like free. It's like, here, have this. But once you spend it, it is gone. So if you haven't made any deposits, you're out of luck. So, I meet somebody, and, you know, I have a certain amount of trust, respect, kindness, and see how it works out. And if they start making deposits of the same, well, they build up a reserve, okay? And this is how this works. So, there are a lot of women, you meet them and they'll just start asking shit from you. They'll want more respect, more trust, more kindness than they show you. And in this case, they quickly bankrupt the minimum supply that I provide at the outset, and then their account is empty and they're out of luck. So, and I think this is a good way to manage your emotions. This isn't just how I deal with women, it's how I deal with anybody. People don't really necessarily think of it this way, but you have to manage your emotions, and I manage it like a bank, because banks manage their money pretty well, they're banks. So you manage your emotions like a bank, you'll do good. Anyway, what I think is happening with these nice guys is this. They have the emotion bank, but what they're doing is they're essentially giving out on loan more and more capital. Instead of having a distinct non-negotiable initial amount, they just keep paying out more and more. More of this kindness, more of this respect, more of this whatever these guys do. And what they're expecting is eventually for it to be paid back. Now, from the woman's perspective, she's just thinking, well, I'm a woman, I deserve this. Thanks for the money, sucker. Never intending to pay this back. It's not even necessarily the sex. It's just that in these types of dynamics, with the pathetic guy and the woman who's okay with getting free shit, which is a pretty understandable perspective, it's basically a conflict of perspective. Namely, this guy is expecting all of this shit to be paid back, where the woman is looking at it all like a free gift. Where I look at it essentially like a transaction, an exchange, and there's a ledger. And honestly, if I know somebody for a long time and they regularly make deposits, I'll even let them go into the red just a little bit for a while, right? It's just like a bank, You have a preferred customer, you give them a line of credit, you understand shit happens. Like, you gotta do a lot of shit for somebody It'll put them in the red for a while, but you've known them for a long time. You know that they'll keep making the deposits. Don't worry about that shit. The problem is when you overextend and you just keep loaning and loaning and loaning to somebody who has never made deposits, because you are stupid to think that they're ever going to pay you back. A bank wouldn't do that shit. A bank wouldn't keep giving out loans to somebody who never deposited any money in the bank or paid back those loans. And this is what the nice guy is doing. And in a way, it's like a subterfuge, because he's like, aha, I will just be nice, and then eventually she will realize the debt that she owes me. That's not going to happen, buddy. And that is why these guys get so overwrought and intense and emotional, like, oh, I'm angry now. I'm so much better than her. Because he feels like he's been generous and that generosity hasn't been returned. But in fact, he's actually been rather stupid, because, all of this stuff is rather obvious. The point is, you deal with people as equals, on a give-and-take basis. You don't just hemorrhage your limited supply of goodwill, emotions, trust, respect, shit like that. We live in a society where it's like, oh, you should treat women as goddesses, give them respect no matter what, they blah, blah, blah. Well, no, that's not how it is with anybody. With anybody, respect must be earned, kindness must be repaid, and if it's not, you gotta close the account and move on. Have a nice day.